This next story for me is personal. And I'll just be out front and say that. Um, it's the killing of Pastor Ricky Floyd out of Memphis, Tennessee. The story is heartbreaking, uh, and it was shocking when I got the news. The man, in a way, was a mentor to me, and the manner in which he died, which we'll get into, jarred me, shocked me, and really had me thinking about the brevity of life, and how short it can be. It feels long, but it's really short. I'm still processing it. He's actually supposed to be on my podcast, but it's surreal in a way. To have his life taken in that manner is shocking. He helped a lot of people, and to see his life just taken in that way is heartbreaking. It is truly, truly, truly heartbreaking. I want to start by sharing a report from a local news station, sharing a little bit about the case and what happened, and then I'll get into a bit more, and then I'll share some more of my thoughts.
Breaking news on your news leader at 4 today. We're learning more about what may have happened to a well-known pastor who died in the streets of Memphis early this morning. Pastor Ricky Floyd was shot and killed outside a South Memphis bar and kitchen. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm Alex Coleman.
And I'm April Thompson. We're just getting information in from police this afternoon. An affidavit says 3 people, including a woman who is now charged, got into an argument with Pastor Floyd. It goes on to say that a video from Mama's Bar and Kitchen shows Floyd threw the suspect's phone to the ground along with the beer can.
Now, police say he started to drive away but got out and walked toward her. Then she reportedly moved toward Floyd, and that's when police say he walked backwards away from her and then fell to the ground. Of course, this has all sent shockwaves all across Memphis and the Mid-South.
Indeed, those in the community as well as other pastors are responding hours after learning the man who preached nonviolence is one of the city's latest victims of violence.
Crime scene tape blowing violently in the wind marks the spot where a violent attack happened overnight. It was just after 1 a.m. when police were called here to Mama's Bar and Kitchen at the corner of Kentucky Street and E.H. Crump Boulevard. Listen as dispatch relays information from Broadcastify.
It was involving a female shooting a male who was constantly approaching her in an aggressive manner.
Police, along with other first responders, soon arrived, but there was nothing they could do. This ambulance sat idle as the man shot was never rushed away from the scene. Instead, this is where he was pronounced dead. The victim, we learned, is Pastor Ricky Floyd, the senior lead pastor of Pursuit of God Transformation Center in Fraser.
I don't know what.
Let's stop there for a second. It's heartbreaking. It's tragic. I'm still kind of at a loss for words watching this, and although I watched the story before, watching it again, the man dedicated his life to preaching, teaching, as that reporter said in the story, nonviolence. He did all he could to intervene, particularly young men in the Memphis community, to give them a different path, to teach them to aim up and high and go beyond their circumstance. He, through his ministry and his life, and I had the privilege of knowing him for a few years, he took blighted, abandoned buildings and built a thrift store. He took property that people forgot about and began to build, in a way, a mini compound of resource for people in a community of Memphis known as Fraser. And he was doing so many good things in the community. And here's the key thing. Here's the key thing about it. So many preachers, hear me what I say. So many preachers, they talk a good game. You know, they say all the good things in the pulpit and behind the podium that you think they should say. But after Sunday morning, you don't see them again to maybe Bible study, and then again on Sunday morning. But this man, you saw him throughout the week involved, dealing with multiple levels of government on a local level, working within the government structures to leverage resources to help people. That's what he did. Always gracious to me. I remember being a reporter in Memphis, and I'm dedicating this portion of the podcast to that because it's important. I remember being a reporter in Memphis, long days in Memphis. And in this business now, you MMJ, which is short for multimedia journalist or multi-skill journalist, where you essentially write, edit, shoot, and do all of it to put the story together yourself, right? I remember those long days, and I would go, and he may be a part of my story that day, and I'll go interview him, talk to him, maybe not interview him, but he'll connect me with someone to talk to, or he knew someone that could interview or could speak to something, and he'll connect us. And he would always have an open door policy with me. You want something to drink, you're thirsty, you want some food, and he's literally fed me when I needed it. He's offered his church to me. I remember I first got to Memphis, and I was introduced to him by another reporter who had known for a while. And one of the first things out of his mouth to me, a guy he didn't know, all he knew was some guy that just moved to Memphis to work at a station here. But he offered to me his church. And he said, anytime you need a workspace, it's available to you. Just let me know. He always joked about how I dressed, and he had this. I won't call it a thrift store. I call it, it was more than just a thrift store, because there was new stuff, there was old stuff. But he just wanted me to get a suit from his store, and so many other things, a hat and all this stuff. And he tried like 4 or 5 different jackets on me, and none of them fit. They were all too big. And he says, when I get something for you, I'm gonna let you know. It's just so much good that this man did. And there's a song in the Christian faith. I'll look it up here. There's a song that we sing. It's an old hymn that we sing in the Christian faith that I think it rang out in me when this happened. It says, tempted and tried, we're oft made to wonder why it should be thus all the day long, while there are others living about us, never molested or never, hurt or never harmed, is what that term means. An old English word. It doesn't mean, it's not sexual. Though in the wrong, they never go through anything. While there are others living about us, essentially is what this line is saying. While others are living and they never do any, they never, they do all the wrong. They do all the wrong in the world, but they never go through anything really. They're never harmed. While death has come and taken our loved ones, it leaves our homes so lonely and dreary. Then do we wonder why others prosper, living so wicked year after year. Farther along, we'll know all about it. Farther along, we'll understand why. Cheer up, my brother. Live in the sunshine. We'll understand it all by and by. Faithful to death, said our loving master, a few more days to labor and wait. Toils of the road will then seem as nothing as we sweep through the beautiful gates. Farther along, we'll know all about it. Yes, we'll understand it all by and by. The man, Pastor Ricky Floyd, was a man among men. He was a light in what seemed like an impenetrable darkness that sometimes attempted to engulf the beautiful city of Memphis. He was a helper. He was a giver. He was a support. He was a backbone for a community known in the Memphis area as Frazier that didn't have many resources. As I mentioned, he tried to provide and fill the gap. I don't have the words. I don't understand it. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. But as the song Farther Along lets us know, we'll understand it better by and by. It has seen the wicked prosper, and they get away with it. But that's not necessarily the case, and that's not necessarily true. He was a father. He was a grandfather. He was a pastor, and a father to many others who are not or were not his biological children. The man gave of his life, literally. And as that reporter said in that story, a man who so eloquently and passionately fought against violence lost his life in a very violent way. I think it's a great loss to the kingdom of God. I think it's a great loss to this country. I think it's a great loss to the city of Memphis. I don't understand it, but he did so much good. If I can do just a tenth of what he did for Memphis, I would have done okay. He could have left Memphis. He could have went off and did whatever, but he stayed in Fraser helping that community. And I'll say this too. I remember I was working on a story, something to do with drug addiction. And that's when he offered me a plate of fried catfish. It was good too. And I was on a story and I interviewed a guy in that Memphis accent, right? Interviewing him. And he was telling me his story. And he got to the point where his life was down and out, and he was on drugs. He didn't know what to do. He was an ex-convict, couldn't get any opportunity, couldn't get any chance. But he was able. Pastor Ricky Floyd gave him opportunity to serve the church. I believe he was either the janitor or a maintenance person or something at the church, the Pursuit of God Church in Memphis. And he talked about how Pastor Ricky Floyd gave him opportunity when no one else would. That's what it means to be a shepherd. That's what it means to be a leader. That's what it means to do good. That's what it means. Let's go back to watching.
To say a pastor would be slaughtered. It's just rare, and I guess it's rare, but it seems to be an occurrence that's happening more often.
A manager here at Mama's Bar and Kitchen told us off camera this did not happen inside the establishment. They're also telling us it happened once they closed up. She wanted to make that clear. However, what's unclear is what prompted the deadly shooting. A source with first-hand knowledge of the case says there was a dispute between Pastor Floyd and a woman later identified as Samantha Marion. The source goes on to say the pastor threw her phone before things spilled into the streets and then spiraled out of control, ending with Samantha Marion allegedly shooting and killing the pastor. She has since been charged with voluntary manslaughter, a killing in which someone is said to have acted in the heat of passion. While police continue piecing together what happened, there's a community far and wide grappling with grief.
To all of those in Memphis and Shelby County and throughout the country and throughout the world that had the chance to encounter this brother's life and ministry. So it's definitely a time to mourn.
For your news leader in South Memphis, Jarita Patterson, WREG, News Channel 3.
Wow. Crazy story there. Crazy story. Let's look at this story, given a bit more about the background. This is from Fox 13 in Memphis. A judicial commissioner ruled Friday, and those are the ones who deal with bond in Memphis. A judicial commissioner ruled Friday that the bond given to a woman accused of killing Memphis pastor Ricky Floyd will not decrease. Samantha Marion appeared before Judicial Commissioner John Marshall on Friday. Marion's attorney John Keith Perry and Kevin Macy argued that Marion should be given a lower bond because she has 4 children and is the sole provider to 2 of them. Prosecutors, however, rebutted that Marion's $100,000 bond, which you only have to pay 10%, so that's about $10,000. The prosecutors rebutted that Marion's $100,000 bond should remain in place because of the likelihood of conviction and the surveillance video showing the altercation between Marion and Floyd on the night of the deadly shooting. She's a hardworking single mother, loves her family, loves her children, Massey said. Marion's attorneys also argued that she acted in self-defense. That's the argument that they're going with here. In our mind, there's no way it should end up with any sort of conviction. We think this is a classic self-defense case, her attorney said. But prosecutors painted a different picture. Prosecutor Missy Bryan argued that Marion could have left the confrontation, but instead grabbed a gun. She goes to her car. She doesn't get in. She doesn't drive off. She retrieves the gun and conceals it behind her back, Braham said. Ultimately, Marshall sided with the prosecution. That's the judge. This is just a sad and horrible tragic event all the way around for Mr. Floyd's family, for Marion's family, for Miss Marion personally, Marshall, the judge said. After Marion's Friday court appearance, Perry and Matt Macy's told Fox 13 that Marion and Floyd did not know each other prior to their deadly altercation. This is a person she had never met before. The information about her following him with some video is totally inaccurate. So there was a claim, or there were claims that she was recording him and began following him. Her lawyers say that's inaccurate. Marion, 42, she's 42 years old, faces a charge of voluntary manslaughter for Floyd's death, which happened around 1 a.m. outside Mama's Bar and Grill at the intersection of Crump and Kentucky Street on March 12th. Court records claim that Marion and Floyd had an argument inside the venue, as mentioned in that report. That argument continued outside the bar and restaurant and saw Floyd throw Marion's phone and a beer can before driving away. According to Marion's arrest affidavit, the Memphis Police Department said Marion then stood in front of Floyd's car, leading Floyd to get out of his vehicle and continue the altercation. Eventually, according to police, Marion began walking toward Floyd as he backed away. Soon after, Floyd fell to the ground and remained there. He died at the scene. Voluntary manslaughter, the charge Marion faces, carries a prison sentence of between 8 and 12 years. It's a tragedy. It is a tragedy among tragedies, and my heart goes out to Pastor Floyd's family. He was a pastor that did what a pastor does, supposed to do. And I'll say it again, he didn't just talk the talk, he walked the walk. He gave of himself, of his resources to help others. And it was an honor to know him. I'm grateful I got a chance to know him. My prayers are with his family. Rest well, sir. Thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and share if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening, wherever you get your podcast, please subscribe and share there as well. Tell others about this podcast, The Weekly Brief, or tell others about my long-form talk interview podcast, Shakur Uncensored. Thank you for watching.